Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, it is an honor to bring you Senate Bill 762C with the approval of your Natural Resources and Wildfire Recovery Committee, the Capital Construction Subcommittee, the Full Ways and Means Committee, and last night's special committee on Senate Bill 762. I just now glanced at the OLIS listing and saw the catch line for this bill. It says, directs Public Utility Commission to convene workshops. This is perhaps a bit of a spoiler, Mr. President, but I need you to know that over time the scope of this bill has expanded a little beyond that. A colleague whose floor style I admire told me that after all that's gone on with this bill, up to and including last night's final amendment, my job is to say good bill should pass and sit down. If only I were smart enough to take that advice, but there are a few things to be said. We have done something remarkable. By we, I mean scores of people who've been working collaboratively for years, up to and including last night, to create a wildfire program for Oregon that rises to the scale of this crisis. The biggest step, the one that gave this bill such a solid foundation, was the Governor's Wildfire Response Council in 2019, obviously before the 2020 Labor Day fires that had our attention this session, and mostly prompted by the fires of 2017 and 2018 that covered Oregon for weeks with suffocating smoke. That's when we said as one, this can't continue, and really got to work in earnest. The governor brought together a remarkable collection of scientists, fire professionals, citizens, and community and government leaders, including Senator Finley, Senator Frederick, and our former colleague, Senator Bertschiger. They met in full and specialized subcommittees for most of 2019, an astonishing volunteer contribution of time and expertise that produced 37 consensus recommendations, all based on the National Cohesive Wildland Fire Management Strategy. That strategy has three essential legs: resilient landscapes, fire-adapted communities, and safe and effective wildfire response. These are the three buckets you've heard about if you've been following this work, and they're the backbone of Senate Bill 762. My pride in this bill is grounded in the immense amount of committed, high-quality, integrated work that went into that over the years, and we wouldn't be here if Governor Brown hadn't convened that council. The other thing we have to recognize and face squarely is the reality of just where we are right now. We know that the catastrophic 2020 season that's had our attention this session wasn't a one-off. It wasn't even a two-off or a three-off. Your inbox should have a bar chart that shows that the average number of Oregon acres burned by wildfire from 2000 to 2010 doubled from the 1990s level and has doubled again since 2010. What about now? How high will this year's bar go? ODF reports that as of yesterday, 597 fires have burned across 15,300 acres in Oregon this season. By this date last year, we had 243 fires that burned 4,200 acres. So about twice as many fires, burning about 4 times as many acres as this time last year. We are not yet into July. Think about that. As we speak, over half of our 36 counties are in official drought emergency, and areas across the state will approach or surpass 110 degrees this weekend, this June weekend. The point here is not to wallow in despair, but to fully recognize and never forget that on our watch, the Western United States generally, and Oregon in particular, have become a recurring inferno. more likely than not in any given year to burst across Oregon again, destroying homes, businesses, landscapes, and lives. This hard fact calls us as very few legislators have ever been called for anything. And it's not just calling to us in this building. We're all called, every Oregonian, to look at our habits and practices and ask ourselves which ones increase or reduce the risk of wildfire and what we can do about it. I appreciate very much what I heard on the floor of the House this week from a representative who fights fires professionally. She said, Merlin, Redmond, Medford, Bend, Warm Springs, those are 5 of the top 50 towns in Oregon at the greatest risk of wildfires, not one in Metro Portland. I'll just interrupt her for a moment to say that Portland's learned plenty about deadly wildfire smoke wherever the fire may actually be burning. Representative Graber goes on to say, this is not a rural-urban divide. This is all of us together fighting to save our state. What's clear to me, colleagues, is that our state survives the coming decades only if we believe those words and act on them. Mr. President, I want to be sure to add to the record a couple of remarks that are meaningful for those who've worked on this bill and fully align with the intent of its primary authors. The first applies to the 2 state agencies most important to the implementation of Senate Bill 762, and it's this. The Oregon Department of Forestry commits to including the League of Oregon Cities and the Association of Oregon Counties in their Rules Advisory Committee for the development of a WUI and wildfire risk map. The Oregon State Fire Marshal makes the same commitment with respect to creation of defensible space standards. The direct involvement of our local government partners will help ensure that the needs of local communities throughout the state are taken into full account and reflected in the outcome. The second statement for the record applies to an important element of 762 that hasn't received as much attention. It's this. This act delegates all rulemaking authority regarding utilities-centered wildfire risk to the Public Utilities Commission, which will require comprehensive mitigation plans from electric utilities. One bottom line requirement of these plans must be effective accommodation of critical municipal and public safety needs, including but not limited to water and wastewater utilities. The steady operation of these critical services during times of crisis is of utmost importance. And finally, sir, on a portion of the bill I'm especially excited about, there's this. Sections 21 through 23 of the bill describe a Youth Corps program focused on wildfire preparedness. The name of this program was broadened to allow for the consideration of programmatic expansion in the future for additional Youth Corps activities, but wildfire preparedness and risk reduction will always be central to this program. Any programmatic expansions will be in addition to wildfire preparedness and not at the expense of it. Colleagues, let me take a moment to highlight just one of the many endorsements for Senate Bill 762 in your inbox. It's actually not the most ringing endorsement in the bunch. Some are more glowing. But I pick it out because it makes an honest, straightforward point that needs to be underscored. It comes from the League of Oregon Cities. After commending the cooperative work of key state agencies on the bill, it goes on to say, without the collective work and their commitment to the future decision-making process, the League could not support Senate Bill 762. The League of Oregon Cities does support moving 762 to completion through this session, but understands there is still much work to be done. We are placing a lot of trust on the agency commitments being met and know our work is just beginning, signed by Jim McCauley for the League of Oregon Cities. Trust is a defining ingredient in this mix. That's what working together to save Oregon looks like. And Mr. McCauley is spot on when he says there's still much work to be done. Because of the ferocity and evolving nature of wildfire on the Northwest landscape, there will always be more work to be done in this program to adapt to the reality on the ground and improve the program we launched today. This, as they say, is a journey, not a destination. The guides on this journey will be the 19-member Wildfire Programs Advisory Council, with several members from local government and various property owning groups, including ranchers, farmers, and the development and real estate community. They're the ones who will steer and continuously improve our integrated wildfire program through years to come. Mr. President, after last night's agreement, the majority leader informed me that I better not count on floor yields from my colleagues, so I'd better wrap up. My gratitude runs deep for the scores of dedicated people inside and outside this building who brought us to this moment. They are too numerous to list. I hope and think they know who they are. One sits right behind me, in fact. There is a quotation from Helen Keller that's become a daily touchstone for me. I actually sent it to you, Mr. President, as a suggestion for your daily words, but you haven't taken me up on it yet. I think it's probably not funny enough. Helen Keller said, "I am only one, but I am still one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do." Colleagues, collaborators, with this legislation, we are beginning to do what we can do. Mr. President, the Joint Special Committee on Senate Bill 762 reports out Senate Bill 762 as amended by the B-17 amendment with a do pass recommendation.